Hello, everyone. Welcome to Food Integrity Now. I am thrilled to have as my guest today, Christophe Plothet. And I'm going to read to you a little bit about Dr. Plothet. Christophe is a doctor of osteopathy and completed 2 years of preclinical training at the medical facility in Mainz, Germany, and then studied osteopathy at the University of Wales in Kent, England. He worked for many years in Ireland, the USA, and Spain. He is currently working as a naturopath in Germany. He is the author and co-author of several books, authors of studies, articles, national and international congresses, and a regular online speaker. His primary medical topics have been featured on television, radio, and films. He is a steering committee member of the World Council for Health, which is a global coalition of health-oriented organization and civil society groups to about health and human rights. Welcome to Food Integrity Now.
Well, thanks so much, Carol. Wonderful work you're doing, and I'm very honored that you asked me for this
Thank you so much.
conversation.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm honored to have you on today, and specifically to talk about Apeel, which is a food coating that many people are unaware of, that essentially has been approved by our FDA. And I think it's something that people need to be aware of, and you've done a lot of work studying this. So why don't we get started? And I'm going to share my screen and we'll get talking about it so we can inform our listeners.
Perfect. I mean, Carol, we had a short conversation before starting this, and yeah, how little is known about this new method, and like all the other big steps that were introduced by the food industry for us, whether it was the Green Revolution, yeah, it was this concept of glyphosate and genetically modified food, whether it was new pesticides, herbicides, we don't hear anything about it, yeah, and so thanks for giving a platform where we can discuss, and everybody can make up their own mind, but people at least have to know what they're dealing with when getting their hands on the next apple or cucumber in the supermarket.
I totally agree. We just need to be informed. And I tell my listeners all the time, unfortunately, we're in a time where we have to kind of be a sleuth in regard to our food. We have to read labels, we have to do our own research, and I do as much as I can to inform the public about, what is really in our food supply. But everybody needs to kind of, do their own research these days. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, and just to give you an information how delicate it has even become to get into these topics and research itself. You know how many excellent researchers in the last decades that try to address all the other modifications through the food industry have been discredited. There are papers withdrawn, or yeah, they even have been sued by the manufacturers. Yeah, we're talking about glyphosate and Professor Seralini from France. Yeah, there are many people like him who are constantly under attack by exposing the potential dangers of what has been introduced in our food chain. And before giving a recent talk about Apeel, I'm in a US group of activists as well. One of the members posted on Facebook to ask for all the organic producers already using Apeel, and she got banned from Facebook for doing so. So
Oh,
that's where
wow.
we are already. So I
Yes.
hope you won't be canceled for this one.
Me too. But free speech is certainly something that has gone away over the last couple of years, and hopefully we can get that back. But
Yeah.
we need to be courageous and step up when we can and inform people that want to know.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the latest Rogan show and the interview with Robert Kennedy Jr., in which he says that basically he has tried many times over the last 20 years to get certain aspects about food safety out in the public, but he was ignored, and all his invitation to get into a debate were ignored. But now through the social media and podcasts, it might be actually more effective than any media that has been tried so far. So let's see whether
Great.
channels like yours can do the same. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started with Apeel. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a new conservation method. And you can see on the website here, the picture on the left, that's an avocado after 31 days without a peel. And you can see on the right, that's the coating of a peel after 31 days. And the first question I ask myself, well, actual ripening of any fruit and vegetable is very essential to get all the right nutrients out of a food. So what actually happens to a food when it's actually prevented from ripening? That was my first question I asked myself when hearing about this new method. And then, of course, what did they actually put on it that actually can preserve something like an avocado for 31 days without putting it in the fridge, and it still looks the same? Next.
Yeah.
So this is the label that you should be looking out for. In case you haven't seen it, it's this Apeel sticker with the two leaves on an imitation of a fruit, and that usually should be labeled with a sticker on the food itself. But we come to that later. What the most worrying aspect of all of this is that you know how difficult it has become to get healthy food in the supermarket. Usually when you pass the vegetable and fruit aisle, that's already it. There's not much left. Yeah. We know how 80% of all everything in the shelves is with added sugar, and we're not even talking about all the other numbers that are added to our food. But the last actually healthy food that you could get in an ordinary supermarket were organic vegetables and fruit. Now, they, as you said, Carol, at the beginning, they got the FDA approval, and this is even for organic food. And it still remains a mystery after all I read why this is possible. But we'll talk about some of the companies that already use it. But yeah, stay informed, and we'll look into how this could actually get approval for being an organic coating. Next. So if you look on the website, I'll just read out here. Apeel adds a little extra peel on produce to slow the rate of water loss and oxidation. That extra peel is completely edible, tasteless, and safe to eat. A variety of plant feedstocks can be used to create our formulation, and luckily these ingredients exist in the peel, seeds, and pulp of all fruits and vegetables. We think of all these materials as building blocks, reconstructing them in a way that allows us to iterate on what nature created, making our solution into a coating that can be applied to produce. So while nature is our foundation and inspiration, innovation and technology are how we apply these ingredients. And with all the years of experience, Carol, for you, nature is our foundation sounds good, and inspiration sounds very, very good, but innovation and technology makes us a little bit suspicious what they actually mean with this. Yeah, it seems a little bit contradictory.
Hollow words.
Yes, and you can see, I mean, I even love the name Apeel. Isn't this just wonderful? You can, I mean,
it's appealing.
It's appealing. I mean, this company really was really doing a good job by choosing this name. It's very soothing. Yeah, if you would turn it, if you would label it, what we'll actually see, glycolipid, artificial glycolipids potentially from synthetic biology. That sounds a little bit different than Apeel. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So the claimed advantages, you can also see that on the website. thanks to the coating, the amount of packaging waste can be reduced. Yeah, that's one of the big things. So they always, everywhere at the moment, talk about being environmentally friendly, and CO2 neutral is also mentioned, which, as we know by now, is not really the case, because you also need, for the factories, because you have to have skilled workers that apply it, you also need a lot of energy to actually proceed with the coating. Next. So the first interesting thing is that we know what a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader is, and the science founder, Apeel's founder, James Rogers, is actually this. So that already raises some eyebrows in the people who know about it, but there are still people that who don't know that the World Economic Forum has been training for decades people to be aligned with their aim of a reset. This is no conspiracy. You can read it in their books and can look it up on their website. So next. So it has official approval since 2020 in Kenya, Uganda, Costa Rica, Colombia, in Germany, in Denmark, Switzerland, Canada, and Ecuador, and then more countries are waiting for approval in their countries. And the peel-treated produce can be found in several large grocery chains in the US, Walmart, Costco, Kroger, Trader Joe's, Harps Food, and many others. So it's well worth, if you dig into this topic, to actually inquire with your local supermarket or write to the supermarket chain of your choice that you usually use.
I know
Next.
I've been when I go into any kind of grocery store these days, I'm always checking out all the food now. And because I know you've listed some of the main large stores, but it makes you wonder about, the smaller stores too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the point is with it's all about labeling. As long as we do get the labeling, and of course, like with so many other things, I mean, you in the US don't even have labeling for genetically modifying food, yeah. And this will become a huge issue, since probably for this month, we're talking only about a few days left. The mRNA modified salad is being given to livestock in the US. So
I know.
they got approval. So this is something we should know as well. And there's a bill at the moment that's being fought in order to get at least labeling on it, because this could be a very, very crucial factor. So yeah, here in Europe, we still can get labeling of genetically modified food or not. Yeah. But we'll have to be very, very careful that this labeling doesn't disappear, because that's obviously one of their aims, because it's so natural that then we don't even need to put it on any vegetable or fruit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, there are actually two components. And again, look at the names. Invisapeel sounds beautiful. Adapeel sounds very, very good. I mean, I just love this company. Yet it's they're
They're clever,
really,
aren't they?
they're so clever. It's amazing. Yeah. It sounds so inviting. And Invisapeel is the first stage that can actually be applied by the farmers in the fields on the crops. And then after the harvest, Adapeel is put on top of it. And it's usually its main topic, its main marketing is the preservative aspect. But also it protects, if you can imagine, it's a covering that you can't rub off or peel or anything. Yeah, it remains on there. It actually is a physical barrier against pesticides, against all kinds of insects, and against all kinds of fungi as well, that has been shown in studies. So
Is
it's
it
a pesticide and a fungicide. Yeah?
is it systemic then, and then it gets in all the cells of the plant, or does it work
Um,
that way?
that was actually never studied. So it was only looked at the coating and the effects from the outside. How deep it actually penetrates the food, we don't know. We have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And one interesting thing is that when you enter the website, this is one thing that we know from many drugs on the market as well. The actual list of ingredients is not actually there. We know that they use it for avocados, cucumbers, lemons, limes, mandarins, oranges, organic apples, grapefruit, and mangoes at the moment. And in the EU now, they will go a few steps further this year. And it says that Apeel's Adipeel is composed entirely of a blend of food-grade glycerolipids derived from edible vegetable oils, specifically the food additives mono and diglycerides of fatty acids that meet the specifications of the Food Chemical Codex, the joint FAO, WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives, and the European Union. So don't worry. It's all safe because the food monitoring agencies have approved it. Well, we know that whether it's FDA, which is around 80% industry funded, or it's EMA, the European equivalent, that's 90% industry funded, is not really the authority that we would recognize in order to say something is safe or not. But keep in mind, there are two words here to remember. There's glycerolipids, we come to that, and there are mono and diglycerides in it, yeah? And we'll see how natural they are. Next. So the monoglycerides, yeah, mono and diglycerides, actually, you can find that in the patent on the web. Anybody can have a look at it. They contain trans fat, which promotes inflammation in the body and has been associated with many, many chronic diseases. As we know, disease like diabetes, stroke, and obesity. And here in Europe, it's not quite as far as in America, but the FDA in 2006 recognized the dangers of trans fat, began requiring manufacturers to list trans fat on food labels, which for some interesting reason is not done here. It doesn't contain the word trans fats, because that would be a little bit off-putting to have fats that you can't wash off and then actually are trans fats on your apple or on your banana. But actually, they should be required, and that's one of the questions we should ask to the officials, why this is actually not labeled. Yeah. So
Right.
next. And here comes another one. We know that many of the E-numbers are not quite as organic when it comes to food supplements, but the primary ingredient, keeping in mind that it has been organically approved, is E471. And these are the mono and diglycerides. That's T.3 dehydroxypropyl palmitate and 1.3 dehydroxypropane 2-YL palmitate. Just to get the names out. I have to read them out myself because I couldn't remember that. And if you look at the European Food Safety Authority, you will find some interesting reviews for E471. For example, in one, it says the reference is listed underneath, that the potential exposure to toxic elements resulting from the consumption of E471 could be substantial. We'll come later to what these substances are. And another one warns of the possible presence of the carcinogen glycidol in glycerides. So
Wow,
we
that's a
have
mouthful.
yes, we have glycidol, and we have E471s, and even warnings for this organic coating. Yeah, keeping in mind an organic coating. Yeah. So then next one. And this is about the patent, which is an extremely long file with lots of incomprehensible jargon that would take a while in order to understand. But if you look at it, you'll see that the coating consists of monoacylglycerides, fatty acids, esters, amides, amines, thiols, carboxylic acids, ethers, aliphatic waxes, alcohol salts, inorganic and organic, and compounds of Formula 1. And then you see that it contains alkynyl groups, ethynyl propenyl, N-butanol, and I-butanol, and C2, C6 alkynyl group, blah, 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 and a few more. And then you can see it's listed there, both cis and trans double bonds of fats. So it's actually written in the fact sheet, in the patent. Again, actually you would need a lot more information about these criteria, fatty acids. There are quite a few out there. Esters, yeah, there are quite a few out there. Amines, yeah, there are quite a few out there. What actually are there? Even the patent doesn't list it. Yeah. Next. And keeping in mind what we just said about the glycerolipids, you go on PubMed and you type in, this is what I did in order to find out the significance of glycerolipids. The first paper that I actually caught is the one that I'm using here. In the abstract, it says it's discussed that alteration in the GLFFA cycle, so that's the glycerolipid lipid metabolisms, are involved in the development of killer diseases such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. So
Wow.
they put modified glycerolipids into this layer, whilst scientific papers, peer-reviewed papers report that alteration to this, because it's an important part of every cell membrane, can lead to killer diseases. I don't have to say more than that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Next. So another interesting thing is when you read in the mainstream press about Apeel, which I welcome you to do so, because you will see a lot of appraisal for this new technology and this so-called startup company that went on the market in 2018, got approval in 2020. And if you then look at this association, which is a relatively new, it was founded in 2021, the Fresh Produce Association. I found this by chance when looking up all the potential links of Apeel Sciences. You will find that in the board of directors, yeah, you will find James Rogers of Apeel Sciences. That's basically a year after the startup has come out, which should make us a little bit suspicious why it's on the board of directors of an international food association as a startup company. That made me a little bit concerned, actually.
Yes.
Next one. So coming to that, so what is this little startup company? And well, there's one name that's mentioned a lot in the last 3 years, because it was actually Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that funded it with $100,000 grant at the beginning. And on the other looking at the other investors, you find the Rockefeller Foundation, the World Bank Group, you found the CEO of personal genomic company to 23andMe, and you will find the former CEO of YouTube. So all these people must have had an amazing insight in the potential of this technology, or we might soon look at other criteria that we should look out for. So next.
All the usual suspects here.
I didn't want to name it like that, but the usual suspect.
I said it. But when you start connecting the dots, you get to the point where you're not really surprised, at some of the players and who's orchestrating this behind the scenes. As sad as that is, there's a lot of truth to what I just said.
That's one of our aims of the World Council for Health. Yeah, that's as you said in the introduction, I'm a member of the steering committee of this organization. We're in over 50 countries with over 200 organizations trying to get people back into their sovereignty with a so-called free set. We actually want decentralized food production again, because decentralization led to the who is who of the chronic diseases. If we know now Esselstyn, Ornish, Barnard, and all the others that have published so much about it, 80% of our chronic diseases are basically food related. And
Yes.
that this isn't the main focus of any health agencies, whether that's FDA, whether that's EMA, or that's with the World Health Organization, actually, for me, completely discredits them. If we know that 80% of our killers of our time are related to food, and nobody talks of food, there's something wrong. Yeah.
Well, we don't really have a healthcare system. We have a sick
We
care
don't.
system.
No,
Which,
it's a disease management system based on a huge sums of big pharma. If you think that people in CDC and FDA actually have percentages of shares of the medications and vaccines that they promote, this is not healthy. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it.
I wonder whatever
So
happened to conflict of interest.
yeah, well, that's a good point. When they started really um, to make this possible, yeah, that health regulatory agencies became parts of owners of patents of medication. That happened in the 90s. Then everything crumbled. Yeah, I think it was
Right.
1996 that was actually allowed. That, and at the same time, that's when all the ads on TV were allowed, yeah, promoting all these technologies, yeah, and then a spiral developed from there, yeah.
Yeah.
Next, and so in the actual founding was in 2015, and 3 years later, that's why I said 2018 was the real foundation of it. The Apeel Sciences were started with 100,000 grant, but look at to Apeel technology, which is obviously related to Apeel Sciences, was supported by 10 times as much by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with almost $1 million. Yeah, so you don't find this on their website, yeah, because it's Apeel Sciences that has the website of Apeel. But if you go to Apeel Technology, you'll find there's even 10 times more invested in this, which should make us even more concerned.
Right. When you said $100,000 grant on that previous slide, I thought, well, that's not that much.
Yeah.
And that's probably the response that they want, people to have is, well, they're not very involved in this.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're very clever nowadays. And if you look at it, there are 10 companies basically controlling the entire food market in the US. It's just 10. But of course, it doesn't always say this is this company, this is Nestle, yeah, this is
Funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates
Pepsi, Gates
Foundation.
Foundation. You'll have to dig deep in order to find
Yeah.
the association. Yeah, it's not that clear cut. But
Yeah.
if you know a little bit about it, you'll find it very, very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
With a few clicks on the internet.
Follow the money.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, the interesting thing is, if you look at all the chemicals involved in the manufacturing and actually in the content of the peel, we can really wonder how it ever got organic use approval. Yeah, I really find that I have a company myself, and with all the regulators and all the tests, all our produce are organic. The amount of paperwork I have to give in order to get yearly checkups for my organic label, I wouldn't get any approval giving the information out that I just gave you so far. So it's a complete mystery to me, and that actually shows how entangled industry and health regulatory bodies are. And the worrying aspect, in a recent interview, Rogers stated that his company would soon start using synthetic biology, another beautiful word instead of saying genetically modified. So whether they will continue then being able to call it organic. We know that even in many organic produce, like cheese, they were very successful, that it's genetically modified organism that then create the enzymes in order to make the cheese. But because the enzymes are, when they go into the cheese, don't contain usually the genetically modified organisms, they don't have to be labeled as genetically modified. So you can get away with this. But if the actual produce contains the chemicals and then now is genetically modified in its production method, I would be even more shocked than I am now to get an organic labeling on them. You know?
So they just changed the name, basically.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I
just
mean,
it's basically just a cover up, changing the name, and how they get away with that is just quite interesting, isn't it?
yeah, no, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. In every, if any of your viewers has any more information on the use of synthetic biology in organic appeal, I'd be very, very grateful if yeah,
Yeah.
I could have more
It
info
seems
on
like
that.
we know a lot so far, Christoph, but there's a lot more to learn, isn't there?
Absolutely, and that's if you know now, I mean, I even started using AI in order to find out what information I can get with this, but it's so heavily censored AI, it won't give you anything.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It will just give you what these companies put in the AI in the first place. So
Yeah. That's
that's
like
how far we are.
using Google. They
Yeah,
only show you what they want to show you. They don't show you everything. So
exactly.
I'll
I mean,
probably I'll probably
I
get censored for saying that, but
Yeah, yeah, but you know, it's so important to say this because so many people don't know. And I mean, I've been writing scientific papers for decades. Um, I was able to go 20, 30 years ago in the internet, yeah, look up studies, compare, which I don't even find on Google anymore. Yeah, I
yeah.
have to skip. I don't know how many pages to come in information, and many people don't know this. Yeah, they have no idea how sensitive every
Yeah.
information
Well, I
I
use
have.
Brave, and I think it's better, but do I trust it 100%? Not really.
Yeah, I do the same, but
You just have to be discerning. You have to really use critical thinking these days, and that is something that it's never been as important as it is right now to be a critical thinker.
I mean, I am very fortunate that I've done this work for decades as you have, and I'm in contact with so many wonderful, authentic people all over the planet that have new ways of distributing the information via Substacks and other means. So if I have a burning question, I know now whom to contact and to ask about what kind of
Right.
information. Yeah, but I do see not everybody has this available. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a Substack account yet, but I'm probably gonna need one.
I think it's a very good way to share, to
Yeah.
quickly share information. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is about the toxic residues. That's a part of the website here, and this was another notice in by the FDA in 2019 that the maximum limit residues, we find that the grapeseed oil that makes up the basis of this product, Apeel, contains residues of ethyl acetate, heptane, and palladium, which are processing aids, as well as heavy metals, arsenic, lead, cadmium, and mercury. So this sounds a little bit baffling as well that it got organic approval, knowing that's there. But as you can read up on the FDA's website, the dosages are so low that no toxic effect can be expected. But they leave out one thing is that I've been working in metal toxicology with Professor Stejskal in Sweden, who was a specialist in this many years ago. And there's something else than just the actual levels of the heavy metals in a system, because they also have a synergistic toxicological profile. So they can enhance their toxicological effect by even up to a factor of 100, yeah, when being combined together. So it's well to have them under the so-called safety levels, which in most cases are not really safe. That's one thing, because the way those safety levels are established is really not scientific at all, but it leaves out all the synergistic effects and end of
Like
it.
the
Full stop.
synergistic effect of putting these things together.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be in an organic peel. That's full
Yeah.
stop. Yeah.
That
No,
reminds me of Seralini's when he did some studies regarding glyphosate and the adjuvants they were using, and surfactants made it like 1,000 times more powerful.
and if you look then at the safety studies, they isolated all of them and only looked at them individually. Yeah,
Right.
that's was one of the things that Seralini got criticized, but he won each times against Monsanto. Yeah.
Yeah, he did, and I interviewed him, and I've met him in person a couple of times, and what an amazing man he is. He's
Great man.
yeah,
Absolutely great man. Yeah. Mm. So in summary, that we have now a coating which cannot be washed off, likely contains toxic contaminants, including heavy metals and carcinogens, as well as trans fats and potentially harmful linoleic acid, and is regulated to be on the organic market. That's the key sentence I would like everybody to take back home and then to do some research on your own. Next.
it really calls for people to really think about whether they can start to grow their own food too. And now, granted, if you live in an apartment or someplace, that get together with other people, figure out a community garden, or grow food on your balconies, because if we can't trust the organic in the supermarket, what are we going to do?
Exactly. There are, and Carol, a few years ago, that sounded like some hippie movement idea that wasn't based on reality, but it actually might be a topic of our survival to decentralize food production on all the levels that we haven't even talked about here. It's not only about what it all contains. It's about the microbiome of the soil. It's about the microbiome of the food that we're eating. It's the complete environment around it. If you think that Gates now buys up all this farmland in order to put up these huge glass factories to grow our vegetable and fruit, completely sealed off any ordinary circulation, with genetically modified seeds and artificial fertilizers, etc., etc. We know the impact on our environment of the way we have been producing food created all the droughts and heat and everything, because it's completely unnatural to have this green revolution methods on our fields, which led to all these hybrids that farmers could not actually use their own crops for the next year, and that there was supposed to be one seed for all farmers on all climates on this planet, no matter where we go. Absolutely insane. And that's
Yeah,
what we've been saying at the beginning. People have never really been informed about all of this and how it's all interrelated with our basic questions towards life on this planet as humans.
right.
And decentralized food production, as you said, please do that. Please come together. Please grow in your own garden. Please form cooperatives with the farmers in your area.
Right.
Many are very open because they have to fight for their livelihood now. If you look at countries like Holland, where almost a fifth of all farmers now forced off their fields and have to close down because of supposed climate change reasons, or the 200,000 cattle in Ireland are slaughtered at the moment to save our planet. If we would just change the way we grow our food, we wouldn't have any of these problems. There was
Right.
a beautiful,
Organic regenerative farming. It's the only
exactly.
way.
And that's bringing us back in cooperation with nature, and that solves all those problems.
Oh,
So
I like to always, we bring the bad information, but I always like to I don't want people to feel, doom and gloom and there's no hope or anything. But on the subject of growing your own food, uh, I am on the board of Moms Across America, and
Mm,
they started the Neighborhood Food Network. So
mm,
if you go to neighborhoodfoodnetwork.com, you can learn about how you can start in your community, no matter where you live, a neighborhood food network. And they have all the forms, and they have the hows and why we need to do this. And we need to get back to that where we know we're a community, we know our neighbors. And I started one here in my community, and we now have 100 and I think it's 108 families as part of the food network, and
wow,
we trade.
wow.
I'm growing lemons. Okay, I'm growing zucchini. Who wants to trade this for that? And it's wonderful. And it's also, are you not only getting local nutritious food, but you're meeting your neighbors. You're
Yes.
creating, a community in which you can all assist. That's just
Uh,
something for people to think about.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like to interview you on this because that's these are the things that we actually promote. And as you said, there's so many levels, and especially, I mean, thinking that in England, a ministry of loneliness has been founded because people are have developed that was even prior to all the lockdowns have become so lonely, yeah, that we need to reestablish communities and to get people together. And it's so beautiful with all the projects that we have here in our area to get to know like-minded people by exchanging our vegetables on a Thursday night. Yeah, that's what we do here.
Right.
Yeah, it's it's
That,
it's it's beautiful and encouraging and absolutely this all this information, and maybe you could show the next slide to finish it off. All these information are just to empower you. They're not there to actually create more stress on this already very
yeah.
a very dystopian world that we live in. But just to tell you that I do believe that all these contradicting information and everything is being put out to confuse people and to keep them in fear. And if we just go back to where we came from, it's very, very simple values that we all share. And we all share feelings of love and community and a healthy planet, because we know that this is the environment we want to live and we want our kids to be growing up in. Yeah. So it's let's not get confused with everything that's being offered out there. Just let's go back to basics. Yeah. And the basics are very simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot simpler than people think, and doesn't have to be some complicated, huge deal that can't be achieved because it's very achievable. Like I said, when I started the Plateau Neighborhood Food Network, it just within like 2 months we had 100 people in
Wow.
my community, just like that, because people want something.
Yeah.
They innately they know something's off and that we need to do something different.
Yeah, no, there's a deep longing after the breakdown of all the authorities that we were surrounded by. I mean, if you think about how much credibility the state, our law, our medicine, even religions have lost in the last few decades. Yeah, this created so much confusion, and all of this can be brought back to, as we said, very, very simple values, and this can connect people that truly care. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
yeah. So
Uh,
I'll just leave it with a summary of these questions that we should answer, should get answers for from our local supermarket. You're very welcome to use them, or the companies. Many people do write now to all the companies that use Apeel, and there are a few organic chains that have already refused. So that might be worth checking that which companies are actually not using them. Then you still have a choice at the moment. Yeah. But let's ask them which glycerolipids are used and how are they modified, yeah, because that usually involves the chemicals that leave all the traces that we mentioned beforehand. We don't know what chemicals does the company use to extract the lipids and glycerolipids from plant residues, because that's another thing that they have to do when putting these so-called natural substance in it. And where does the company source the leftover already processed plant material it uses, and what is the quality of these plant materials? Because we can see that all of this will go into the food chain, and we have to know, yeah, what effect that will have on all animals that eat it out there, and including us. What chemicals may have already been used in the plant materials themselves that then are included in the Apeel organic food solutions, because we don't know. Yeah, we have no actually indication of these facts. What is the solidification process like? Because when fats get warm, they usually melt. This doesn't happen. You spray it on there, and no matter what the temperature is, it remains a solid crust that you can't peel off. Do the materials always come from the same sources? Because yeah, you might use one thing from Colorado and the next time from California, but is this really the same? We don't know. If glycerolipids are essential for us and are involved in the development of many diseases, how does the modification affect us? And you clearly can't say this if the company actually had its rollout in 2018. Yeah, it sounds almost like a fast-tracked approval again. In order to release something into the food chain, Professor Seralini always said that we need at least 10, 20 years in order to know, yeah, how the next generations in effect, and all the other insects and other mammals around the fields in which it's used. Why are trans fats allowed? What are the consequences for our microbiome? What is the environmental impact? And as mentioned before, on the CO2 benefit, in which is highlighted everywhere, is basically nullified by many calculations that have been done so far. So why do we have this? And until we get the answer, go to the companies that still sell on original organic food, yeah, in the true sense of it, and then go into decentralized gardening in your home, with your neighbors, with your local communities, and come back to life.
Right. Well, this has been such great information, Christoph. And how can people learn more about your work? How can they contact you or go to your
feel free to look on the World Council for Health website, and also as a Substack. I'm frequently a writer on this one, so feel free to use that Substack. One of the last relatively uncensored platforms. Yeah, I hope we can have that with us for quite a while, and please look at the World Council for Health website. We do free talks every Monday with topics like these, general medical topics, topics on nutrition, and topics for a free set in every sense of the word. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I love your work, and I hope our listeners learned something new today. I certainly did. And I'm going to do what I can, do my part, and ask those questions. And I'll be checking out everything I buy. I'm very fortunate. I'm able to grow a lot of my own food, but as we know, many people cannot. So just do your own research, and there's always a way. There's always a way. And I truly believe there will always be a way, because there's enough people who really care for this planet that we're going to find a way.
We just had a conference in Bath, UK, and it's our annual conference. It's called The Better Way. So there's always a better way.
There's always a better way.
I would add to that.
We'll leave it at that. Well, thank you so much for your work, and thanks for our listeners for being here. And we hope you learned a lot today, and that you will share this with everybody you know. Thanks, you, Carol.